love doing a good tag video. Hi everyone, my name's Chloe, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for being here today. Today's video is going to be a tag video. I was tagged by the lovely Becca Fowle. I will link her channel and her video down below. But this is going to be the 20 questions book tag. It just seemed like fun, so when she tagged me in it, I thought, yeah, I'll do that one. I always love a good tag for extra things to put up on my channel, and this one sounded like fun. It's literally just 20 questions about books. So without further ado, let's start answering. I will say, if you watch Becca's video, a lot of her answers were like, I'm not going to be able to give like a definitive answer on this. Mine are going to be very similar because a lot of them like, well, it very much depends. So get ready for me to ramble a little bit in these answers. I feel like you're pretty much used to that from me by now. So we're going to start with question number 1, which is, how many books is too many books in a series? So the first one where I say, it very much depends. So generally I will say that most series I read tend to be either a duology or a trilogy. I think it is a nice, 2 or 3 is a nice number because you're not going for too long that you're worried that it's just going to get ridiculous and that you're going to get bored or just lose track of who all the characters are. That being said, we all know that one of my favourite authors is Robin Hobb, and while she does individual trilogies, they are all tied together in one bigger universe, so it is actually like a 16-book series, but it's broke down into smaller chunks. I think that might actually be the key for me for longer series. If you're going to do an epic long series, break it down into small sections. It makes it a lot more manageable, and it still gives you that sort of satisfying story arc where nothing gets too long and too convoluted because you have a payoff of a finale, but then still know there's more to come. So smaller series, but then if you want to add it up to bigger series, that's absolutely fine. I'm trying to think if there's anything I've read that is like over sort of 3 or 4 books that I've still really loved that hasn't been broken up like that. The only thing I can think of is stuff from childhood, like a series that we will not talk about, but then also like the Princess Diaries series by Meg Cabot. That was 10 books in total, plus lots of like little ones, and then plus lots of novellas in the middle as well. And I was still here for that series by the end of it. But I think my reading taste has probably changed a little bit since then. So yeah, looking around, like everything on my shelves, like you can see behind me, you've got like the Nevernight trilogy, the Aurora Cycle, which is a trilogy, the Illuminae Files is somewhere on there, which is also a trilogy. We've got Laini Taylor's Dosab is a trilogy, Strange is a duology. What have we got for V. Schwab is a good example. She's done a trilogy of the Shades of Magic series, and then she's going to do another trilogy. That works out perfect for me. So yeah, trilogies and duologies, and then if you want to add more, give me a break and then do another trilogy and duology in that same universe. Question number 2, how do you feel about cliffhangers? Again, very much depends. So if it is a cliffhanger in sort of the literal sense of what a cliffhanger was originally supposed to be, of somebody sort of like hanging over a cliff and do they die or not, no, I can't deal with that. I don't want the stress of like leaving the characters in the middle of a situation and just not knowing what the resolution of that situation is, because inevitably the payoff is never quite as good. You've built it up for so long, and then usually it gets resolved in like the first chapter of the next book, and it's like, okay, because now we have to move on to whatever the actual setup is for the next book, and it just never and like I say, it just seems to be like unnecessary tension in between books that doesn't, without a payoff for it, and I'm not here for that. But I do like the version of a cliffhanger where it's more that there's been a big reveal when you just don't know how people are going to react to it, because in that you still had some like satisfaction of seeing what the reveal was. You're not like literally in the middle of that, like situation where you literally like, do these people live or die or not? You've had that sort of, oh my god, jaw-dropping moment, but you still sort of, but the rest of the story is still sort of resolved enough that you're like, you're wanting to come back for more, but you're not like just desperate to know whether, but you're not sort of desperate to know whether or what's going to happen to your favourites. That's the type of cliffhanger I'm okay with, and when it's done well, those sort of like reveals at the end of the book, love them. Question number 3 is a hardback or paperback? Again, very much depends. Hardbacks for my shelves. I love having hardbacks on display. I think they look the most aesthetically pleasing. I'm fine with reading hardbacks as well, up to a certain point. If it's like this one, EOTV, was a nightmare to take around and read because it's like a nearly 800 page book and it's hardback and it's huge and it's just a nightmare. paperbacks are more convenient to read. Like, I have a book at the side of me that I'm going to show you in a minute, and like giving you an answer for one of my questions. But look, like that's the ideal, isn't it? Something that you can literally just have open like that, stays open by itself. It's paperbacks to read, hardbacks to display. That's the simple answer, I suppose. Question number 4 is favourite book. I find it really difficult to pick one favourite book. I have many. I have many that are sort of like comfort reads that I know are not necessarily the best book. I mean, I've just held one of those ones up, like Red, White and Royal Blue is definitely very high up there for a favourite book of all time. But would I call it my favourite? Whereas the book that I would probably call my favourite because of just the reaction that I had to it when I read it, I've only read once. I do want to reread it, but I don't know, but I just kind of want to take some time in between reads. It is by one of my favourite authors, which is spoiling another question later on. But I think I am going to have to go with The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V. Schwab. Like, this just, the reading experience of this the first time, like I took my time and really savoured it, and it was just a beautiful book. And it had that sort of, it had that beautiful writing that I love in books anyway. It had that, the characters were fantastic because it's V. Schwab and I love their characters, and it just kind of had everything that I wanted to. It was like, it's one of those quite calm books, but where a lot happens, but it's also like quite calm, and it's about like the characters rather than the like bigger drama, which is again my favourite type of book to read. It's just, this is one that stuck with me afterwards. So even though I've only read it once as compared to some others where I've read them multiple times, the fact that this one stuck with me so much after having only read it once, it kind of has to be my favourite. And yeah, and I am looking forward to a reread of this soon, because it will be soon. It's on the plan. It's definitely, I'm definitely planning on rereading it this year. I think I'm going to wait more towards like the autumn time, because it just feels more like an autumnal book to me. But yeah, I will be rereading it at some point, and I'm pretty confident in the fact that it's still going to be a 5-star read, and it's still going to be my favourite book of all time. And then the next question is least favourite book. I can't think of one for this. Like, I've never read a book that I like hated with a burning passion. There's been some books that I've given 1 star, although I think on reread I'd probably give them higher. I think I was just in my feels of like, I really don't like this and I don't see the hype, so I gave it 1 star. I've never like hate read something. Like, if I really don't like it, I will. Well, to be honest, actually, I tend to know my reading taste enough going into it that I don't read things that I'm going to like intensely dislike. So I don't have a least favourite book. I'd say there's still time, but I don't want to like wish upon myself reading bad books. See, and the thing is as well is that there's some books that I possibly could say for this, but I don't want to upset people by saying them, because like there's some books that I really, really disliked, but I know that other people love them. Like, there's one book in particular that I'm thinking of that I know that one of my friends really, really loves this series, and it just wasn't for me. I couldn't make sense of what was going on throughout it. But I don't think I want to say it's my least favourite book, because I can understand what some people would like about it. I just really didn't. So it's very strange. Tell me if you can figure out what book I'm talking about there. But yeah, no, I'm not going to pick one for this. I'm going to avoid that question. Thank you very much. Love triangles, yes or no? Again, if it's done well. I mean, love triangles are a staple of things I read growing up, and I was fine with them. I mean, I was all here for them in a lot of books, and yeah, but obviously as I've grown older I have kind of moved away from them. But that's probably because they're being written less and less as well. It's just not a trope that you see quite as much these days. So again, like, if it's done well, I don't like the whole thing of it being like a love triangle where one of them is just like secretly pining for the other one, and then just the relationship between them and the main character kind of comes out of nowhere at the end. Like, if there's the tension's right throughout, yeah, fine, I'm not going to rule anything out, but it's not something that I reach for that often. Like, it's not something I see in a lot of my favourite books. So the most recent book you just couldn't finish. There were 2 that I DNF'd earlier in this year actually, but I say DNF'd, I didn't really get into them that much. It was 2 that were like finishing series I'd started many years ago. One of them was Evermore, which was a sequel to Everless. I read literally 30 pages and I was like, you know what, I don't remember enough of the first one. I'm not inclined to reread the first one. I'm just going to give up on it. And then the other one was whatever the last one was in the Three Dark Crowns series, like the Queens of Fenburn series. The order of those confuses me. But again, it was, I think I read about 100 pages of that one last year or the year before, put it down, planning on coming back to it, and then just never did. And then I looked at it to reread and I was like, you know what, I'm past the point of caring this series now. I skimmed to the end, saw what it was, and was like, okay, there we go, I'm done. And I've unhauled those. So they're probably the last ones. I don't tend to DNF very often, but those are the last ones that I actually made the effort to go, oh no, I've started these and I'm not finishing them. Book you are currently reading, this is going to show how early I'm filming this, because I don't think this is actually going up. I don't think this video is actually going to go up for a few weeks yet, but I'm away for the next 2 weekends, so I'm pre-filming things. But I am currently reading, we are currently in the middle of June, and I'm reading books for Marvel-a-thon. I'm reading Witchy Heartbreak books, so Payback's a Witch by Lana Harper. I am like halfway through this one. I'm enjoying it. I'm not loving it as much as I thought I would. There are some things to do with the execution that aren't going as well as I want them to. And yeah, but it's fine. I just have not been in a reading mood for the last few days, so it's taken me a while to read, which is not helping. But then the other one that I'm reading, I'm listening to the audiobook when I'm on my way to work, so I'll be reading some more of this one tomorrow most likely, and that is City of Dragons by Robin Hobb. This is the 3rd book in the Rainwild Chronicles, so it is the 12th book in the overall Realm of the Elderlings, and I have no idea how far I am in this one because I haven't even got a bookmark in it because I'm listening to the audiobook. But enjoying this one so far, actually liking this series more than I thought I would. Still not a passion in any of the other ones, especially the Fitz trilogies, but I am enjoying it. There we go. Last book you recommended to someone. So obviously, like, I recommend books on this channel, but I'm not going to count those because I'll lose track of what I recommend to someone. And I can't remember, and I was trying to think what was the last book like I actually just recommended to someone, and it's probably a mixture of being on sprints and then also Jem asking for help at the beginning of Marvel-a-thon for what would work for Animal Companion. And basically I recommended this book and then I mentioned it to her a few times after to be like, are you going to read that one? And it's Nevernight by Jerry Christoph. It's my favourite book I read last year and it has an animal companion in it, so I recommended this one for her to read for Marvel-a-thon. She's not reading it for Marvel-a-thon, but she has assured me that she will be reading it at some point this year, hopefully. And me and Lisa may be thinking of plans we can do that could prompt her to join in with us in a read of it. So yeah, Nevernight by Jerry Christoph is the last one that I recommended. I do honestly think that Jem will love this. It's not for everyone, but I think she will love it. The next one is The Oldest Book You've Read by publication date. So I don't know, I'm gonna have to check. I will be back in 1 minute. Let me just go on Goodreads. Okay, so I've only read like a certain number of classics, so I knew it would probably be a Jane Austen one. I just wasn't sure which Jane Austen one it would be, but for some reason I've only got 2 of the Jane Austen ones I've read on Goodreads anyway, and I've definitely read others. I've read Emma and Zed's Sensibility as well, but Emma's never vlogged those. The oldest one I have on Goodreads is Pride and Prejudice. This is a really random copy I have that I got free in a newspaper back in the 90s, and I've read this quite a few times now actually. I did a reread of it last year, and one of my favourite classics. Will happily reread it again. I actually have a nice copy of this on its way to me as we speak, which I'm very happy about. But yeah, it's this, basically when I look at my oldest published ones, it's this, then Persuasion, and then there's a jump to sort of the late, because these are the early 1800s, and then there's a jump to the late 1800s with Little Women and Alice in Wonderland. And I'm sure there's other things missing as well. Like, I've read Phantom of the Opera and I can't remember when that was published. I started reading Les Mis, I've not finished that one. So those are the older ones that I have read. I'm not going to keep listing classics that I've read to you, but this is the oldest one that Goodreads is showing me anyway. The newest book you've read by publication date. So, I mean, the newest one I've read is one that isn't actually out yet, Babel by R.F. Kuang. This one comes out on the 1st of September. It is my most anticipated release of the year. I am happy to report it was a 5-star read. I loved it. But yeah, that's the like newest release, if you count it as that, because it hasn't even come out yet. I don't know if we're going to base it on what actually has come out. Let's have a look at that instead. If we're going by books that actually have come out, it's apparently My Mechanical Romance by Alexander Falmer Farrell, which is another name for Olivia Blake. And I got an arc of this one earlier this year as well. I didn't even realise it had actually already come out, but it was a YA romance all based around STEM, and I gave it 4 stars. It was an enjoyable read. So there we go. Those two very different books, but those are my most recently published ones I've read. Favourite author, like I said, I've already spoiled the answer to this one, but it is V. Schwab. This one, actually, the reason why I picked up this particular copy of Addie LaRue is that this is the one that I got signed and personalised when I met them, so I'm very happy to have this copy. V. Schwab is my favourite author. I've loved everything that I've read by them. I think the lowest I've rated anything is a 4 stars, and even that is just because it's a debut and it's just not quite to the level of her newer stuff. So yeah, V. Schwab, I think there's something for everyone with V. Schwab's writing, because she writes so many different types of books, all with like a fantasy or speculative twist to them. But there's quite a wide variety of styles and age ranges in there, and I've loved everyone so far. I'm very excited to see the next ones, because we're getting a new Dark Shade of Magic book and we're getting a new Villains book. So 2 of my favourite series coming back again. I'm so excited. Question number 13 is buying books or borrowing books. Definitely buying books. I am too particular about my books. I like having them on my shelves. I like having them on display, so that's a good thing anyway. But also, like, going to the library when you get some of the copies and they're just beat up, it breaks me. So it breaks my heart sometimes. I'm like, just please love these books a little bit more. Also, yeah, if I really love a book, I am going to want to have it on my shelves, because I am a book collector as well. So I'm not opposed to sort of borrowing books. Like, I will borrow them if I'm not sure if I'm going to like them, and then if I really love them, I can buy a physical copy later. Like, but ideally, if I've really loved a book, I would like to have it. So that's why buying books is probably my preferred method. Also, if I buy a book, I dislike it, I'll just pass it on to someone else. Like the books that I said I DNF'd earlier, Lisa's got both of those now. It's fine. Like, I'm happy to, it's fine. I'm happy to sort of rehome them afterwards. I'd rather own them in the first place so that I have the possibility to read them. Question 14 is a book that you dislike that everyone seems to love. Probably the Mortal Instruments series. Now, I know not everyone loves this series, because I know that Cassandra Clare in general, like most people, will admit that her writing has got better as it's gone along. I don't know that, because after reading that series, I don't really have any inclination to read any of the rest of her work, because I just really could not get along with the Mortal Instruments at all. You know, the thing is, I've got friends who really love that series, and yeah, just unfortunately not for me. But I'm glad that other people have found joy in it, because that's the thing. I know that books that I love, like Laini Taylor, for example, is not an author for everyone, but I'm happy when someone else likes a book that I really dislike. I'm just happy that it found a reader that really did get some joy out of it. So, question 15, bookmarks or dog ear? I mean, this is just one of my many collections of bookmarks. This is the sort of ones I've used recently. We also have got 2 tins full of bookmarks down there as well, so I think that's your answer. I mean, I just don't understand why people would dog ear books. I mean, it pains me enough watching people do it to their own books. It's never happening to mine. No. Question number 16 is a book that you can always reread. I have already shown you this one earlier. Red, White and Royal Blue is a comfort read for me. I've read it now 4 or 5 times. I can never remember how many. I am planning on rereading it again soon. There are other books as well that I've reread many times, but this is the one that comes to mind as probably the book that I've read the most times. It's just, like I said, it's a comfort read. I know objectively it's not like the best book in the world, but I just find it really comforting to read. So this one, for sure. Question number 17, can you read while hearing music? I can. So my brain gets very busy, and I kind of need to have other sounds on while I'm reading, otherwise I get very easily distracted. So I will read with music on, I'll read with the TV on in the background. If I've already seen the show before, like at the minute I've been rewatching Schitt's Creek, I can have that on in the background, know what's happening in the episode, pay attention to it enough, but also still be concentrating on my book. My brain kind of needs to be kept busy in multiple ways, otherwise I'm not actually going to take anything in. So yeah, I know that might be a strange answer, because I know a lot of people are like, no, only things without words or anything like that, and I'm like, no, just give me all the different methods of media, and that will, and otherwise just nothing's going in. Question 18, which is one POV or multiple POVs. Again, it depends on the book type situation. Like for contemporaries, one POV works absolutely fine. Generally, it's good to have one character that's guiding the storyline. Obviously, for romances, sometimes it's nice to have both sides of view. But for fantasies, I do like multi-POVs, because I think you get a richer idea of the world. Although again, that being said, there are definitely instances when I'm fine with having one POV. Like the Robin Hood books that are my favourite are the Fitz books, which are generally completely told from Fitz's point of view. So yeah, I would take whatever worked well for that particular storyline. I don't really have a preference. Question number 19 is, do you read a book in one sitting or over multiple days? It all very much depends on the book again and what mood I'm in. Like if I'm in the mood, I will sit and devour a book in one go. If I'm not, it could take me a couple of weeks to read a book. It all very much depends, and yeah, no particular answer for this. I told you it'd be a lot of that. This is the last actual like question on here, and again I'm just like, it depends. We'll see. There we go. Sorry that these have not been more definitive answers. Speaking of, the actual last question, question 20, is who do you tag? And I don't have a definitive answer for this either. I don't know who's done this tag, so I'm just going to say anybody that wants to do it, I will tag them. I know some of the people I would have tagged, Becca tagged when she tagged me, so I'm not going to repeat those again, but one person I can think of who maybe hasn't been tagged yet is Meg from 12 Books a Day, so I'm going to tag her. But other than that, if you want to do it, there you go, I tag you. But that is everything. I enjoyed doing this tag. I liked just talking about some bookish preferences with you guys. I feel like the most sort of like divisive answer I've probably given on this is about about having music on while you read, because like I said, I like lots of noise while I read, which I know is not normal. So that's the question I'm going to ask you. Can you listen to music or have a TV show on while you read? Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff down below, and I will see you next time with a new video. Bye.